The first cover we have is Enter the Wu-Tang, also known as 36 Chambers, by the Wu-Tang Clan. Notable singles from this album are Method Man, Protect Your Neck, and the well-known Cream. The cover features classic tones, masked martial artists, and of course the world-renowned Wu-Tang Clan insignia. Get Rich or Die Trying wasn't 50 Cent's first album, but it was certainly the album that put him on the map. Notable tracks on this album are just way too many to mention, as the album is a straight banger. The biggest tracks from a commercial standpoint were In the Club, Many Men, Wankster, and PIMP. Many listeners, including myself, were quite surprised to find out that the holster straps used on this cover weren't actually Gucci. Here's the original album cover that was used before it was changed for certain regions. Midnight Marauders by A Tribe Called Quest stands up as a classic to any boom bap enthusiast. The cover features a figure with the culturally relevant colours of red, green and black. You will also notice talking heads from members of the group and a typeface that embodies 90s music at the time. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is an album by the influential and politically conscious group Public Enemy. The cover features founding members Chuck D and Flavor Flav inside a cell. You will also see the popular and iconic Public Enemy logo. You will also notice that Flavor Flav, pictured on the right, is wearing a large clock, which was his trademark. Ready to Die was the first studio album by legendary rapper Biggie Smalls, also known as Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls certainly delivered on the album and represented one of the first opportunities for the world outside of New York to see his skills. The album cover with Biggie Smalls pictured as a baby would later on become the subject of an issue between Nas and Wu-Tang's Raekwon. The Ghetto Boys were an early hip-hop rap group headed up by mogul Jay Prince. The group would later become known for their hard bars and real lyrics. They would become popular with the black community because they spoke a truth which many people living in the inner cities of America could relate to. This album cover will also go down as one of the most well-known, as it pictures group member Bushwick Bill being wheeled in hospital after receiving treatment for gunshot wounds. Liquid Swords was released in 1995 by Wu-Tang stablemate GZA. Known for his wide vocabulary, GZA dissects certain concepts like chess, martial arts and other concepts, and relates them to his life in Shaolin, an area within the borough of the Staten Island region in New York City. The style of the album cover unites different sides of pop culture that were popular at the time, comic books and martial arts. The War Report was released by Queensbridge duo Capone and Noreaga in 1997. This album is widely considered a classic by most hip-hop fans. This album cover is very unique because it uses effects that weren't necessarily popular or easily done at the time. As you can see, the two of them are digitally pictured in front of buildings to represent their hoods in Queensbridge. Notice the sand on the floor. The sand is to represent the sand in Iraq in the desert, which is the same name they used to call the hood that they hailed from. Interestingly, Nas uses a similar concept of picturing himself in front of his buildings from the same area, Queensbridge, on his album released 3 years earlier. Many artists, including Capone and Noreaga, have spoken about the fact that they were also influenced heavily by Nas and his first album, Illmatic. Illmatic was released in 1994 to a rousing reception from both listeners, local people and the industry alike. Notable tracks include Halftime, One Time for Your Mind, One Love, and many more to mention. The album cover imagery has a picture of Nas as a child in front of his projects in Queensbridge. We also see a similar artistic direction in some of his later albums. As listeners, we see his evolution from a boy to a man through his album art and also his work. This is also represented sonically by the change of his direction and thinking, and also incorporating different lifestyles. Aquemini, an album released by Andre 3000 and Big Boy in 1998, would represent the South's contribution to the major hip-hop scene. The duo would go on to be known for their southern style twang and also their fast, intricate flows. This eclectic cover would represent the culture, pimping, Cadillacs, southern style that was very prominent in this time. It also has a sort of a smoky, dark vibe to represent the music on the album. Old Dirty Bastard, also known as ODB, a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, known for being larger than life and rough around the edges, released a second solo album from the Wu-Tang imprint called Return to the 36 Chambers, the Dirty version. This innovative album cover has a picture of Old Dirty Bastard's food stamp card. He even comically signs it Old Dirty Bastard. This is definitely an album cover that catches the eye, which is not surprising as the artist himself does too. The two main singles released from this album are Brooklyn Zoo and Shimmy Shimmy Ya. West Coast rapper and Compton-born rapper technician Kendrick Lamar released a masterpiece of an album called Pimp a Butterfly. The album is known for its funk and hip-hop blends, seamless sequencing, and emotive lyrics. It is commonly referred to as an album that you experience rather than just listen to. The cover imagery is interesting here as it shows a bunch of inner city kids making themselves comfortable at the White House. In 2004, Kanye West, a hip-hop and fashion icon and billionaire, released his debut album, The College Dropout. The rapper, known for producing for large artists like Jay-Z, Mos Def and Talib Kweli, found it hard to break into the rap game as a rapper and was often preferred as a producer. This album represented his crossover success into the mainstream through singles such as Through the Wire and All Falls Down. When his fans say that we want the old Kanye back, it's usually this project that they're referring to, as it is seen by many of his fans as his best work. However, he would go on to produce great and amazing albums after this, including Late Registration and Graduation. The notable mascot, also known as the Dropout Bear, is the key feature of this cover and also remains as a running theme for some of his later albums. 808 and Heartbreaks, released in 2008, represented one of the first times where Kanye West decided to branch out from his established sound from his past albums. The album is more electronic than some of his past endeavors. Many say that this album changed the landscape and the sound of hip-hop going forward from this point on. Receiving a mixed reception upon its release, this album is largely seen as a classic and a game changer in terms of Kanye's sound and also the sound in hip-hop. Drake also coins it as one of his main inspirations for his sound and his artistic direction. The cover, simplistic in artistic nature, has a picture of two hands holding a heart which has been broken to symbolize the theme of the album. During 2002, where two Virginia-based producers were running a rap game in the form of Timbaland and Pharrell. Enter Clipse, a rap duo of two brothers, one of the first acts signed to Pharrell's label Star Trak. They emerged on the scene with a catchy yet simple groundbreaking beat produced by Pharrell. One of the first singles seen off the album, Lord Willing, was called Grinding. The album, jam-packed with beats from the Neptunes, had very striking album artwork, pictured in cartoon style, with the two brothers driving a car, with a picture of Black Jesus in the back. Notable singles from the album include When's the Last Time, Ma I Don't Love Her, and one of my personal favourites, I'm Not You, featuring Jadakiss and Styles P. When Tupac's posthumous album, The Don Illuminati, under the alias of Machiavelli, was released, it was shrouded in mystery. Many fans believed that Tupac was still alive. At the time of its release, many websites popped up supporting the theory. The standout tracks from the album include To Live and Die in LA, Toss It Up, and of course the unforgettable Hail Mary. The track Against All Odds also deserves a notable mention. After a 3-year hiatus of solo albums, Kanye West would release his 6th studio album, Yeezus. Amid controversy in his personal and professional life, the album was welcomed with mixed reviews. In terms of what fans were used to, it was a complete left turn. West himself said that this was done by purpose, in that he wanted to break out of any boxes and labels which his fans had or anyone else in the media had put him in. He said that the album represented rebellion, but in a sonic nature. This is seen through tracks like I Am a God, and other tracks on the album which feature different textures never seen before in hip-hop. Whether the album is your cup of tea or not, one thing that can't be denied is its innovation and the fact that it chose not to stand with the crowd. The album cover is very simple and minimalistic, featuring a blank CD in a plastic case. The colours are bright and the clarity is crystal clear. When DMX burst onto the scene, releasing 2 platinum albums in 1 year, his fame and his notoriety rose to a super high level. He was known for his aggressive tone, loud and lively beats, realness and deep thoughts through his music. Of all these albums that he released during his career, none of them are as striking and unique as the album Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, which features DMX drenched in blood in a bathtub. Reasonable Doubt represented Jay-Z's debut album into the hip-hop scene. After struggling to get himself signed to a major label, him and his other 2 partners, Dame Dash and Biggs, proceeded to release their album themselves independently, eventually gaining a large partner in the form of Def Jam Records. Reasonable Doubt was ahead of his time in terms of the cadences and flows used by Jay-Z. Many rap fans have decided to go back and revisit the album to discover the high level of rap artistry and technical endeavour. The album cover is interesting because it is one of the first times that you see in rap music where the whole mafioso image was used, and would become a common theme in the rap of that era. We would also see Jay-Z revisit this mafioso gangster image in one of his later albums, American Gangster, which was released around the same time as the film American Gangster, starring Denzel Washington. The reason why this album cover is so effective in communicating the artistic style of the project is because it matches the music featured in the album so well. Songs like Can I Live and Coming of Age all feature that sort of classic New York sound. When you listen to songs like this and you look at the album cover, you can imagine being in a New York speakeasy in the 1920s or 30s. This is a great example of the marriage of the album art and the music, which is to be enjoyed at the same time, and all contributes to forming an image in the mind of the listener, engaging them and immersing them in your music experience. After the success of the first 2 Blueprint projects by Jay-Z, the standards were set high for Jay-Z to deliver an impressive project. The album was released in 2009 and has features from Drake, Jeezy, J. Cole, Kid Cudi, Kanye West and Rihanna. Notable singles from this project are Run This Town, DOA, and my personal favourite, Thank You. Again, we see a continuation of the sort of New York mafioso style, where the whole track takes on this sort of wise guy style. The level of production is very high, and a good variety of beats, but yet still flows seamlessly, featuring productions from both Timbaland and Pharrell. Very interesting music. Missy, Misdemeanor Elliott released an album called Super Duper Fly, exclusively produced by, at the time, nearly unknown producer Timbaland. The album will be a breakout success, birthing the career of Missy, who would go on to produce many hits in the future. Standout singles are The Rain, Beat Me 911, and Sock It To Me featuring Da Brat. Missy would later go on to wow her fans with her amazing imagery and imagination in her music videos. In comparison to a lot of her imagery, the cover is quite simple, but the typeface used and the imagery of the fly and the relaxed nature of Missy in the shot reminds me of a certain coolness associated with the album and what it represented at the time of its release. The thing that stands out the most would be the bottom of Missy's shoe, which is clearly an Air Force One, which would go on to re-emerge as one of the most popular sneakers in the shoe market. Lil' Kim was the label mate and protege of legendary rapper Biggie Smalls, aka the Notorious B.I.G. When she first sprang onto the scene, she was lauded for having great rap skills and set her legacy in stone as one of the greatest female MCs to ever grace the game. Her often racy and edgy lyrics were seen as influential to a lot of female MCs that came after her. When hardcore was released, many were stunned by the sexual nature of the artwork. It became synonymous with Lil' Kim, and many male fans had a poster of the album art in their bedrooms. After serving a 9-month jail sentence, Tupac Shakur was bailed and released and signed to Death Row Records. After feeling abandoned and isolated by his peers and people in the industry, Tupac came out with a renewed sense of drive and vigor. It represented a time in the rapper's career where he would be his most prolific and produced a huge amount of music in a short amount of time. All Eyez on Me, the 1996 double album, represented this period in time. The album is jam-packed with West Coast beats and high production values, and has features from Casey and JoJo, The Outlaws, Nate Dogg, Corrupt, Method Man, Daz Dillinger, Redman, Snoop Dogg, and of course Dr. Dre, who produced a few tracks on the album. It has a number of standout tracks, such as California Love, Part 1 and Part 2, two of America's Most Wanted featuring Snoop Dogg, and How Do You Want It featuring Casey and JoJo from Jodeci. Songs like Trading War Stories and Holler At Me shows Tupac's repertoire and high ability of rapping. The album cover, with his dark background with Tupac pictured wearing leather, which was quite popular at the time, embodies the moment where he was immersed into the culture of death row and gang culture, which dominated the label at the time. It fully encapsulates his attitude at the time, which was combative, where he was going against anyone in the industry that he felt was in his way. The title of the album, All Eyez on Me, is certainly appropriate because of the amount of attention that he had in the media spotlight at the time. The album would go down to be a crucial part of hip-hop history and revered as a classic set by a legendary figure in the scene of hip-hop. Most hip-hop enthusiasts will rate Tupac in the top 2 of the greatest of all rappers that ever graced the mic, with many placing him at number 1. The Chronic, released in 1992, is the debut album of platinum rapper and producer Dr. Dre. The album is seen as a genre-defining piece of work. It was also the album that officially introduced the world to the talent of Snoop Dogg, who would also become a superstar icon in his own right. The album would take the rap game by storm on all coasts, with its West Coast G-Funk sounds pioneered by Dr. Dre. It also represented a time where the world was finally introduced to West Coast culture of Cadillac Coupe de Villes, 40s, lowriders, and the slick laid-back smooth culture which was popularized by P-Funk artists beforehand. It was also the first time that the world was able to see the wonderful vocal talents of Nate Dogg. Standout singles were Nothing But a G-Thing, Let Me Ride, and F with Dre Day, which was a diss track aimed at his former label mate, Eazy-E. The album cover has drawn comparisons to the zigzag rolling papers that were popular at the time. course the album represented one of the first times in hip hop where weed smoking was popularized. The typefaces are something that you'll normally see in a tattoo shop, which is also part of West Coast culture. Supreme Blientele is the second studio album released by Griselda member Westside Gunn. Westside Gunn is known for his artistic repertoire, often opting to rhyme over drumless soul-sampled beats. Westside Gunn built up a following and a reputation for being one of the most creative artists in today's industry. Production on the album was handled by the likes of Daringer, The Alchemist, Pete Rock, Rock Marciano, Harry Fraud and Ninth Wonder, as well as Static Selector. The value of Gunn's work can be seen in the fact that he uses gritty and street-related lyrics on top of artistic and often quaint-sounding beats. This offers an artistic juxtaposition which is intriguing and stimulating to the ears. This is perfectly encapsulated with his album cover, where he is seen holding a large weapon and a bandana hiding his face, which also happens to be Fendi and high fashion. Through the face covering you can see what looks like to be grills, and also the tattoos and the black and white nature of the photo also adds to the grittiness. In 2008, Lil Wayne, the well-known and talented rapper from New Orleans, would go on to release the third installment of his Carter series, the Carter 3. At a time when he was considered one of the most hottest rappers in the game, he certainly didn't disappoint. After his burgeoning success from his mixtape endeavors, the album represented the opportunity to really cement himself on the world stage as one of the hottest and top rappers. Released on Universal Motown and Young Money, the album is chock-filled with hits and popular records that would go on to be decade-defining. This would include A Milli, Mr. Carter, Phone Home, Mrs. Officer, and our personal favourite, Dr. Carter. The album was seen as a commercial success and also allowed Lil Wayne to showcase his auto-tune skills, as well as his catchy choruses and rap punchlines. The album cover is visually striking because it features a picture of Lil Wayne as a baby. However, the baby on the picture has the tattoos that Lil Wayne had at the time. The young toddler is also seen rocking a suit and wearing a big pinky ring. Even though facial tattoos are seen as a common part of the rap game today, at the time it was controversial because it wasn't so popular. So in a way, Lil Wayne was a trendsetter in this sense. Anyway, we appreciate you coming on this musical journey with us. We hope that we've been able to give you some extra insight into the amount of work and effort that goes into some of the artwork featured in these albums. Please support our channel by liking, subscribing and sharing our work so we can continue to bring you more videos like this.